The first time Mira pulled the lover's card from mysterious man, she hesitated. It was a chilly Thursday evening in late October, and the scent of burning sage curled to the back room of Moonroot, her quaint little tarot shop nestled on a quiet corner of Charleston. Candles flickered in antique holders, their light casting warped shadows on the floral tapestry covering the wall. The man, who called himself Julien, sat across from her, his pale hands resting on the table, calm, unassuming. He wore a long dark coat and a scarf even though it wasn't that cold. His eyes were the kind that studied too much but gave nothing back. Clever eyes, dangerous ones. She remembered asking, "What's your question tonight?" He had leaned forward, smiling with a crooked intimacy that made her stomach flutter. "You already know." And she did. It had started 3 weeks prior. He walked into her shop just before closing, said he didn't believe in tarot but wanted a reading anyway. She read his cards, and they spilled open like wine, the devil, the moon, and the tower. She joked about temptation and secrets. He asked her out to dinner before she could shuffle again. Mira was married, had been for 10 years. Her husband, Derek, was dependable, devoted, and dull in a way that had begun to ache like a bruise beneath the surface of her skin. They rarely touched anymore, talked only of groceries, bills, or her late-night business. He didn't ask why she stayed so late. Or maybe he didn't care. Julien, if that was his name, asked questions, not about the future, but about her. He watched her like she was a book he meant to steal, memorize, and never return. Their affair started in a hotel 2 blocks away, a boutique inn with ivy climbing the bricks and a faint scent of cedar in the hallways. He never stayed the night, never called. He came like a storm and left the same way, leaving her with tangled sheets and lingering perfume. Still, Mira kept pulling cards for him. The High Priestess, the Magician, the Moon. Each reading pulled her deeper into his orbit, blurring the line between desire and danger. Then came the night she drew the Empress. She was sitting across from Julien, her fingers trembling slightly as she cut the deck. He looked unusually tired that night. His tie was loose, his eyes shadowed. "You seem distracted," she said. "So do you," he replied, smiling faintly. She laid the cards in 3 rows. Past, present, future. In the center, the Empress. A rush of recognition jolted her chest. The soft golden figure on the card. The wheat, the pomegranate gown, the lush throne beneath a canopy of stars. Myra's fingers froze. Weeks ago, a woman had sat in the same chair. Polished, beautiful in a restrained kind of way. Navy blue nails, a silk scarf that smelled faintly of roses. She had introduced herself only as Claire. She'd come in with nervous hands and asked, "Can you tell me if my husband is hiding something?" Mira remembered the reading vividly now. She had drawn the moon, reversed, then the 5 of swords. And then, yes, the Empress. Claire had stared at the card in silence. "I'm trying to get pregnant," she had said quietly. "But something feels wrong lately. Like he's drifting. Like something else has his attention." Mira remembered her own breath catching, the momentary fear that her mask might slip. But Claire hadn't noticed. She left thanking her and even tipped well. Now, across the table, the same card burned in her hand like a live coal. "You okay?" Julien asked softly. She looked up at him. Her voice, when it came, fell hollow. The Empress. Fertility. Creation. A powerful feminine force. She can mean pregnancy or a woman central to your life. He raised an eyebrow, amused. "You?" She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Maybe, or maybe your wife." There it was, the first crack in his expression, a brief flinch. Then he looked down, and his lips curved upward in that maddening, unreadable way. "You always were good with your cards," he said. That night, Mira didn't follow him to the hotel. She sat in her shop alone long after closing, staring at the deck. She shuffled again, asked no question, drew a single card. Judgment. Her breath hitched. A card of reckoning, of truths revealed, of the past rising from the grave. She reached for her phone, opened her messages, scrolled to Derek's name. Her finger hovered over the call button, then moved past it. She wasn't ready to explain. Not yet. Instead, she did something worse. She searched Claire's name on Facebook. She found her easily. Claire Whitman, married to Julien Whitman. Photos of their wedding, a summer trip to Tuscany, smiling brunches, and posted just that morning, an ultrasound photo, 8 weeks pregnant. Caption, "Our miracle is on the way." Mira dropped the phone. The Empress. The next time Julien came to her shop, she didn't light the candles, didn't burn the sage. She met him at the door, her arms crossed. "Does she know?" she asked. Julien tilted his head. "Does who know what?" "Claire," Mira said. "About us." His smile faltered. "She's pregnant," Mira said. "Congratulations." Julien stepped closer. "You think I planned this?" "That I wanted it." She held up her hand. "I think you came in here knowing exactly who I was. I think you enjoyed it. The game. The risk. You never gave me your real name, did you?" He didn't answer. "I pulled judgment last night," she said. "For myself. I think it was about you." Julien nodded slowly. Looking at her was something almost like regret. "I never lied. Not really." She let out a hollow laugh. "Omission is still betrayal." He stepped back, as though accepting her verdict. "If I leave now, will you tell her?" Mira looked past him, past the flickering sign outside, past the truth he'd never spoken. "No, that's her choice, her path." He lingered for a moment longer, then turned and walked out, just like that. No final kiss, no backward glance, only the cold bell above the door marking his exit. Mira sat down at the reading table, alone. She shuffled the deck one last time. No question, no fear. 3 cards. The Tower, the Empress, Judgment, a fall, a revelation, a reckoning. She looked at the cards, then smiled, truly smiled, for the first time in months. This was not an ending. Not really. This was the truth. And from the truth, something new could finally grow. The silence of her apartment was sharper now. Too clean, too still. Derek had already gone to bed when she returned home. His side of the bed a perfect square of undisturbed sheets. He didn't stir when she slipped under the covers. But she wasn't surprised. The distance between them hadn't started with Julien. Julien had only stepped into a void she'd stopped admitting existed. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, that final spread burning in her memory. The Tower, the Empress, Judgment. Her old teacher had once told her that the Tower wasn't a curse. It was a warning, a necessary demolition. You could only build something true once the lie was gone. By morning, Mira knew what she had to do. She started with Derek. He was in the kitchen making coffee, half scrolling through his phone. He looked up, smiled automatically, and said, "Hey, want some?" "I need to tell you something," she said. He blinked. "Okay." She told him everything, not just about Julien, about the way she had felt hollow for years, how the marriage had become more habit than love, how she had needed something, anything that felt alive. To his credit, Derek didn't shout. He didn't cry. He only sat down, the mug still in his hand, cooling as her words washed over him. "I don't hate you," he said quietly after a long silence. "But I think we stopped choosing each other a long time ago." She nodded. "Yeah, I think so, too." They didn't decide anything that day, but the first honest words they'd shared in years cracked open the dam. A week later, they agreed to separate, not out of anger, just truth, a slow, quiet end. Mira closed Moonroot for 3 days. She scrubbed every inch of the shop, walls, counters, windows. She rearranged the crystals, replaced the old tapestries with new ones in brighter colors, and burned a different incense, rosemary and myrrh. A cleansing. She even left a single card by the window display. Death. Not because she was mourning, because transformation had begun. She debated reaching out to Claire. Her conscience clawed at her. But each time she opened a message window, she froze. It wasn't fear that held her back. It was clarity. She knew what it would look like. A stranger reaching out, unraveling the carefully built world of a pregnant woman already aching for stability. Claire had come for a reading, not a wrecking ball. If the universe meant for her to learn the truth, it would happen, without Myra's interference. Months passed. Winter melted into early spring. Mira officially moved out of the apartment she once shared with Derek. They kept things civil, even warm. She opened a second room in Moonroot for guided meditations and candle workings. Clients came steadily, more women mostly. Some came for insight. Some came for healing. Some came for closure. One April afternoon, Mira was reading for a woman named Erin, a recently divorced nurse with shaking hands and questions about starting over, when she heard the chime at the front door. "Give me a moment," she said gently to Erin and stepped out front. Her breath caught. Claire stood near the window, her hands tucked into the pockets of a tan wool coat. Her hair was shorter now. There was a small curve beneath her shirt. Pregnancy well along. Myra's stomach twisted, but she forced herself to walk forward. "Hi," she said. Claire looked at her for a long moment. "You probably don't remember me." "I do." Claire nodded. "I've been thinking about coming back here for a while. I wasn't sure if I should." Mira waited. Claire looked past her toward the back room. "I left him, by the way, 2 months ago." Mira felt the floor tilt. You did?" Claire smiled faintly. "I didn't know everything, not the details. But I felt it. You were right. When you pulled that card, the Empress, you said I was central to someone's path. I thought it meant motherhood, but I think it meant me. I was the center of my own future." Myra's eyes stung. Claire reached into her bag and pulled out a small silver coin. "This was a gift from my grandmother. For protection. I want you to have it." "I can't accept this," Mira said, voice trembling. Claire pressed it into her palm anyway. "You already gave me more than you know." She didn't ask for a reading. She didn't mention Julien. She simply said, "Take care, Mira," and walked back into the spring light, disappearing around the corner. That night, alone in the candlelit quiet of her shop, Mira sat with the coin in one hand and her cards in the other. She shuffled with reverence, slowly, deliberately. 3 cards: the Star, the Empress, the Fool, hope, power, a new journey. She smiled, not just at the reading, but at herself. For the first time in years, she wasn't reading to chase answers. She was reading to begin.